Hey there, teeth lovers. Welcome to today's episode where we're talking about one of my favorite topics of all time, which I have quite a few. But nonetheless, I know you're going to understand what I'm putting down because, in the dental hygiene program, you have to take anatomy and physiology. And so today we're going to be talking about why training the posterior chain is going to unlock the key to getting long-lasting pain relief, right? I know a lot of you hygienists that come to me and they're like, I do rows and I do lat pull down. Okay, but you're still having pain, right? So there's a problem when we have to focus on prioritizing the underactive muscles of the posterior chain and backing off the overactive, right? So we're going to dive into that today. Again, grab a pen and a paper because you're going to want to take notes. We'll get a little bit specific here. So without further ado, here we go.
Hey there! Welcome to the Lift for Longevity podcast, where our goal is to build our strongest, healthiest body. We all deserve to feel our best, but since we only get one body, we have to make sure to protect it by moving safely and with purpose to prevent pain, injury, and surgery. I'm your host, Brianne, and I'm a fit pro turned business owner and also a girl mom. I'm obsessed with educating and empowering dental pros on how to take care of their body by training efficiently and building the right muscles to prolong their career. I know you're tired of spending time working out but still dealing with annoying aches and pains, getting rid of your pain temporarily only to have it come right back just a few hours later, or feeling like you never have any energy. You wish there was a long-term solution to get rid of your pain for good. Well, I'm here to give you real-life, actionable steps that you can take today to get rid of your pain, say goodbye to quick fixes, and have energy to live a life that you love. So if you're ready to get stronger, enjoy your life outside the operatory, and have longevity in your career, grab yourself a high-protein snack and let's get to it.
So the posterior chain. What? Okay, so essentially the posterior chain, it really starts from, the base of your neck and goes all the way down to your feet, right? And your ankles and all of those posterior muscles. There's hundreds. I couldn't tell you how many there are. But the important thing is that, when we're in hygiene, practicing all day, we're hunched forward or, we're always forward, right? Whether it's while we're driving, while we're practicing, while we're cooking, everything's really like anteriorly focused, a lot of flexion going on. So we need to make sure and kind of double down on working the posterior chain. So today I'm going to share with you kind of what muscles to work and what to avoid. I know I've shared this previously with the anterior, right? Maybe, pump the brakes on the chest and the anterior delts and things of that nature. But when it comes to the posterior chain, it's not that simple, right? Because we're relating to the upper and the lower body, but B, there's just so many muscles, and depending on your particular imbalance, we have to be more strategic about what we do. So, for example, I did an article on RDH magazine, and I was chatting with a girl on Instagram, and she's like, I'm so strong, I'm the strongest I've ever been, but I take painkillers. And I'm like, whoa, that's a problem. And I had shared that article with her, and there's a picture of me doing like a vertical pull and a horizontal pull. So we could touch more on that later. But she's like, I do all these. Okay, full disclosure, I only put those pictures in there because the editor asked me to. Not that they're bad, but for example, when you're a hygienist, you have overactive upper traps, right? So when you go and do, say, a lat pull down, right, on the machine, or if you're using a band, your upper traps tend to take over, right? You might feel like you're shrugging. You might feel like your upper traps are in your ears, or you might even feel relief during your workout, but after you're like, oh, I'm still tight. Like my traps just won't relax ever, right? So there's a reason for that. So basically what we need to do is focus more on working those smaller muscles, right? Like the mid and the lower traps, right? The posterior deltoid. Those are some of the ones in the posterior chain that we need to work. However, without kind of telling the upper traps to pump the brakes, they're going to continue to take over, right? So this is where corrective exercise comes in. So I'm not going to go into that one day. That'll be another topic for another day. I'm just going to give you the nitty gritty on like muscles to work. So, okay, we got the mid and the lower traps, the rear delts, the rhomboids. The serratus anterior is tricky because Well, it's not tricky, but it wraps around the posterior to the anterior, right? So technically it lies in, a different plane, but essentially that's a really important muscle to work. I did a podcast episode on that because this is going to, it's essentially responsible for that shoulder stabilization, right? Scapular mobility, thoracic mobility, all those things. So that's a really, really important muscle to target. Okay, so things that you're going to want to focus on are, like I said, the horizontal pulls, like a lat pull down, a pull up, a chin up. Vertical pulls would be like an inverted row or a TRX row. But again, you have to be careful with this because, I was just in the gym earlier and it's like, I can't stand going to the gym because nobody performs anything correctly. And I mean nobody. And I might be a little bit nitpicky, but however, my eyeballs are trained to that. I've been training for 12 years. Like I can't turn it off. And I'm really passionate about people performing things correctly. A, so you're not wasting your time, but B, so you're lifting safely to avoid injury. So off my soapbox. But an example of this is like a bent row. I see people doing this wrong 99.9% of the time. So usually, and I'm going to do a reel on this soon because we really need that visual. But anyways, when you're doing a bent row, you need to hinge, shoot your hips back. So your chest is literally facing the ground. Neck is neutral. Elbows super tight to the rib cage as you're rowing. Most people row up, like towards the ceiling. You need to row back, like your elbows should be pulling more towards your hips, right? So that's just an example, right? We need to make sure that we're lifting efficiently every single movement. So this is why I have my clients send me videos because, it only makes sense like for me to give them feedback, even if it's a little tweak, right? If they're twisting their wrists or something, like we need to make sure we're doing things appropriately. But anyways, so those are a lot of the upper body muscles in the posterior chain that we need to focus on. Well, the deep cervical flexors too, but now I'm kind of backtracking. So we're going to move down the body here. Now, another muscle that's really overactive, though, are the lats, right? So that's a tricky one because we don't necessarily need to strengthen the lats, right? It's a huge muscle in our, in our back, right? In our mid back. And most times I suggest hygienists, like right upon, contacting me to foam roll that. And you'll just feel how tight it is, right? And a lot of times that limits like our overhead reach and things like that. So that's a muscle you have to skip essentially until we fix your imbalances. And then another one we want to avoid is a little bit lower is that erector spinae, right? A lot of hygienists have that sway back, that hyperlordosis, the excessive curvature, whatever you want to call it. And the erector spinaes are really overactive, right? So we also kind of want to skip that. And when we're doing things, say like a Superman or something like that, like that's a total no-no because you're in more extension, right? We don't need to be doing that. Okay, moving down, we need to focus on the glutes, right? I've done a full-blown podcast on glutes alone. The glutes have 3 muscles. We need to make sure we're working all 3, the medius, the maximus, and the minimus. So those are muscles you definitely want to target, as well as the hamstrings. The hamstrings are always so underactive. The glutes and the hamstrings both in hygienists. Like I see hygienists all the time. Their hamstrings are so tight, but they're tight because they're weak, right? So they don't need to be stretched. They need to be strengthened. So that's another area we really, really need to hone in on. And I can give you guys examples of these too as well if you like. But things like a Romanian deadlift or a hamstring curl, and there's so many things you can do. And then moving down further, the calves. The calves are always really overactive. So that's another one. We want to foam roll. We want to stretch them. We don't want to be doing calf raises, right? So it sounds like a lot, and I'm hoping you guys are putting down what I'm picking up because to me, this is such common knowledge. So sometimes I think I brush through things and I don't explain it enough. But at the end of the day, I just gave you, probably 5 muscles to avoid as well as 5 to work, both upper and lower. So that's why this is confusing. And essentially why I do what I do is because you can sit there and research all day long, but if I'm going to work with you, I'm going to hand you all this on a silver platter and you're going to know exactly what to do, exactly what to avoid, take the guesswork out of it, so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, while strengthening your posterior chain is going to help you build more of a balanced body, get rid of pain, we just have to make sure that we're doing it smart, right? We can't just go doing rows and pulls and glute bridges and call it a day, right? Like there's exercise selection is key in programming, kind of when to program things, even like how to hold your hands, like in a neutral position, supine, prone. Like there's so many little tips and tricks that most people don't know. And so again, that's why I do what I do. But I feel like I'm starting to tangent now. Anyways, I have a Facebook group that I've started as well, and I do have free trainings in there. I have a ton of free resources, lots of value, other like-minded hygienists looking to get strong and fit and out of pain and have longevity in their career. So if that sounds of interest to you, I will link that below. It's called Fitness Tips for Dental Hygienists. So go ahead and join the group, and I will catch you next week. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.
Thank you so much for listening in today. I hope you got a takeaway from this episode, and if you did, would you be so kind to share it with another dental pro you think would benefit from it? I know you love learning, and chances are that they do too. Also, I would love to connect with you on Instagram, so go ahead and head over to the Lift for Longevity podcast page or follow me at Built by Brianne. If you shoot me a message saying hello, I will personally respond because I love chatting with dental pros. Before you go, though, I want to let you know that I appreciate you and what you do, and I hope to chat soon. Until next time, stay strong.